Hello, this is your host on the Create and Grow Your Brain Capital podcast. I'm Janine Ledford, your keynote speaker and trainer and author on everything creativity. And we are excited to really bring to you some wonderful brain health and brain capital information. We talk about neurosomatic creativity, intercultural creativity, brain capital, which is brain health and brain skills. And we love giving this information all the way to the littles, to the adolescents and teens, to the young adults, and of course, those in every stage of life. How do we keep our brain healthy? And that's why I'm so excited to bring to you a wonderful guest for this podcast. Please welcome to the show, Collin Adams. Hello, good to see you.
Great to see you as well. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So we are going to just really give people some really great strategies about just getting their brain strong, getting their focus strong, their creativity strong, because that's the basis of my research. Everything I talk about, it's rooted in, okay, well, how can we be our creative best, right? Creative compassion and everything. And of course, we cannot be our creative best without a strong, healthy, creative brain. So yes, I do carry this around. I actually have two. I don't know where my main one is, because this one has you can actually take these two things apart as
I
well.
love that.
So for those of you who are just listening, I was holding up a brain. And so, yeah, let's just jump in. I'm going to just read your bio really quickly. And we have with us the amazing Collin Adams, who I met over LinkedIn and just really connected it with right away. Thank you so much for being available on such short notice on this last day of the year, 2025. And Collin didn't arrive in brain health through textbooks like myself, right? I tell people I'm a street neuroscientist, right? I read all the other books, but didn't get a 4-year degree in it, but I worked with in psychology, which is still working with the brain in a different way. But he arrived through lived experience. Growing up with an undiagnosed ADHD and anxiety, it shaped how he understood himself and the world around him. Through tools like neurofeedback, breathwork, and heart-brain coherence training, he learned how to work with his brain instead of against it, unlocking the ability to regulate his inner world and fully be himself, that authenticity that we keep talking about, especially in leadership training. Today, Collin serves as the director of provider partnerships and training at Brainnovation Network, where he also works as a brain health coach, helping others develop the same clarity, capacity, and self-trust in their own nervous system. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a joy to be here, and I love talking about brain health. So happy to do it today.
Same here. My husband was like, Janine, I think you're talking about this too much. It's like everything is out of your mouth is the brain. And I was like, well, I need to find people who I can talk about this. So
Yeah,
that's why
yeah.
I
Well,
grabbed.
when it means so much to you and there's personal impact, it's obvious and it flows out, and the passion shows.
Yes. So if you can give the audience just a little bit of about you, a little bit more, just how you came in this work, and yeah, we'll start there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always like to say that I kind of came into brain health through the back door.
Mhm.
Like my bio says, I didn't come in through studying it. I actually had a marketing degree as I went through college, which is, you could say, a little bit of human behavior, but not really specific to brain health. But yeah, growing up with undiagnosed ADHD, I just always felt different, and I felt frustrated at times. I felt shame at a lot of times where maybe my friends or classmates were doing things a certain way, or were able to advance in education well, or even socially, just being able to hold conversations was always a big struggle of mine. And I just thought that that was kind of the cards I'd been dealt. I wasn't ever really sure what it was. And then when I was 17, I was officially diagnosed through my primary care physician, who ran me through the standard questionnaire. And I think that really started to help, because I began to have kind of that journey of clarity around what was maybe happening in my brain, but it didn't really take full shape until a couple of years after. I was a college baseball player, a pitcher, and after playing for a coach who was pretty difficult, I always say his coaching style was fear and intimidation, and in football and basketball, those kinds of strategies really work well, but in baseball, where it's more of a thinking game and you have to really manage your mental state all the time, especially as a pitcher, being screamed at from the dugout and during practice and all these things wasn't really beneficial for me and my personality and my development. So from that, went from being probably a pitcher who was a bit overconfident to being someone who couldn't even throw the ball 10 feet without having physical ramifications of anxiety. So in baseball, we call that the yips. I had the yips very bad. I couldn't throw the ball to the bases. I couldn't throw the ball to home plate without an immense amount of mental fear. So I just tried to fight.
Wait, let's pause there because I want to just my job is for you to tell your story and share your wisdom and the new things, and I just kind of stop every now and then pull out the gems, right?
Yeah.
Our logo is the diamond, so that is huge for people. I want people to really understand that, because we do have a book called The Neuroscience of Positive Affirmations, but in the back I talk about the effect on words on the nervous system, and for parents, coaches, mentors, authors, whoever, not necessarily authors, but they do words as well, but to have an understanding on what your words physically do to another human being. Even though I haven't touched you, I'm nowhere near you, I can even send it via text and I can change your neural response, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so just to really expand upon that, because I did play softball as well, and I pitched for 2 years. So yay for pitchers, right? Such a racking place to be, period.
Yeah.
But then to have an authority figure over you that is not using words in a constructive way, do you want to expand upon that, especially for parents and coaches and mentors?
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely played for tough coaches growing up. It's not like I wasn't ever yelled at or didn't go through any kind of difficult adversity as an athlete up until then. I really do believe there's a constructive way to coach someone up in an intense voice. My dad coached. He was an assistant coach with my basketball team through high school. And I always say he's a screamer. He just yells, and that's just his way of communicating. But that never had a negative effect on me because I knew the heart behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that the intention behind the words carries a lot of weight, I believe, as a coach to an athlete. And with this coach, the anger that he carried was what I learned later, frustration about his own burned out baseball career that he was just kind of hanging on to. And we had like little support groups on the team for how to like manage just getting through one practice, because it was constant cuss words. It was, manipulation of words and with words. And another thing that's very interesting, just kind of in this same vein, not just words, but body language. If I were to have a one-on-one conversation with him, as I would as one of his players weekly, he wouldn't make eye contact with me for the entire meeting. And the meeting was like 30 minutes. So imagine meeting with someone for coffee or in a work setting and just never looking at them. It's just like very dismissive. So I think on top of all of the things that I was experiencing on the field from him in a verbal sense, the off the field like lack of care and genuineness really further influenced that impact that the words had.
And you were how old? What was this?
17 and 18.
Okay. So what people, which you can share more about, just, the fastest brain growth periods are that, right? Prenatal and 0 through 5, right? Crazy time that wins. 'Cause it's also growing in size. But they're
Yeah.
saying that the adolescence, right, is the next fastest time. And it really doesn't end till what, mid 20s or so? Some even edge
Yeah.
up to 30s or
Yeah, and the brain has the ability to adapt and change and rewire itself all the way through the lifespan.
mhm,
But
mhm,
a lot of those big changes are happening in those earlier years in adolescence, and a lot of the formations about how your own belief in yourself, your confidence, your ability to show up in different environments and situations is really developed a lot in those early times.
mhm,
And if not, then it requires a lot of undoing and redoing, as I went through after playing for this coach. At the same time, I was also going through a mechanical adjustment in how I was throwing the ball. So I think the pairing of learning something new plus being in a very bad environment for learning something new
mhm.
uh, was what really developed the yips.
Mhm. Yeah, and I've never know there was a word for it. Um,
Yeah.
I was just, and then we're gonna continue with your story. I was just thinking this morning about, I was looking up some football players and it was like 46 million a year or something. And I was just like, isn't that interesting how we pay athletes? And I know not the whole team is making that, usually just a few.
Yeah.
But this amazing amount of money, right? And I love sports. I'm a track and field softball player myself, but you're putting a sphere in a hoop, right? That is the goal of your work, right? You're throwing
Hmm.
a watermelon shaped football through a tee, right? That is what you're focused on. But then we have teachers and people who are making what, 3,000, 5,000, $7,000 a month, and they have the ability, exactly what your story shows, to make or break almost the destiny of human beings for their
Yes.
life. It's like, and especially early child development, they even get paid less than.
Something is not right about that.
Yeah, and I'm just like, we are so backwards,
Yeah.
um, that yeah, that I can put a hoop, a ball in a hoop and be paid millions for some folks, but I don't know. But
Yeah.
just to going on with that, just how important, I just want to wrap that up so you can keep going. Just how important people in authority positions need to be mindful of everything you say is literally shaping the structure of the brain and also the functional identity, right? The part we can't see. Thank you for
Right.
bringing that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And my older sister is an educator, second grade teacher, and really growing up, I everything that I knew I learned from her, and it was just this steady, patient hand kind of guiding me. Which ties into my story. My family, it's me, my sister, and my mom and dad, and all three of them are very high functioning, very quick thinking, very high on the IQ and EQ scale.
Mhm,
So one of the things that developed for me and can really relate with a lot of the parents that I speak with now is the idea of the teen years where the kid maybe is just kind of disconnected
mhm,
and doesn't seem interested in communicating with family at all. And for me, I absolutely went through that. I was a bit of a stinker as a teenager, especially in my relationship with my mom. And I look back, and I actually just talked with her last week about this. And she asked, what would have been different had we known earlier what was happening in your brain? Like what do you
mhm,
think would have changed? And it's hard for me to answer that question because I don't have the context for it. Like it just was
mhm,
what it was. However, I do think one thing that would have been different would have been how I was able to respond in situations and conversations with my parents,
mhm,
with my family members. I think that I would have been able to probably manage my emotions a bit better and understand that maybe it's just going to take me a bit longer to develop the thought into words than maybe someone who has a more healthy functioning brain might. So I think in that dynamic, it would have changed a lot. So kind of fast forwarding now in my story, I was at a new school playing for a much better coach for my needs as a developing athlete. Just incredible person, incredible coach, incredible guide, and was really a privilege to play for him. But despite that better environment, the same internal performance anxiety and the physical ramifications of being afraid to throw the ball came with me, because just changing environment doesn't change what the brain is doing. You have to actually be intentional about changing and adjusting and rewiring your brain to get a new result. And I wasn't aware of that yet, but my parents came to watch me play one weekend. They traveled in, and the first inning I went out there was really successful, had a great inning. And then the next inning, I walked the first 4 batters and was pulled out of the game. And nothing had changed in the environment. Nothing had changed in my approach. I was actually at a lower part in the lineup, so you would think that it would be easier for me to get through that. And I just completely collapsed. And I remember sitting in the dugout just obviously feeling embarrassed and ashamed, because my parents came all that way to watch me, and I just folded like a house of cards again. And I was starting to see my dream of playing professional baseball die with my inability to control my mental emotions and my approach to the game. So we were sitting at dinner that night after the game, and both of my parents are incredible, and they're willing to do absolutely anything to help me, as you know, many parents are. And so I'm really grateful for that. And in that dinner, my dad had remembered reading an article that a family friend was involved with about this neuropsychologist who was working with him on something called neurofeedback. And my dad texted that family friend, and by happenstance, he texted back within like 10 seconds. And next thing I knew, I had no idea what this was, but I was set up with a full cap 21 lead EEG assessment in my apartment in my small college town, looking at my brain on a screen. And so I remember I was a little bit confused. But I had that spirit of an athlete in me where I just was willing to do whatever it took to see my dream come true. And so I was all hooked up, and I was seeing all these brainwave numbers and looking at that, thinking like, this is really interesting. And then my neurofeedback coach was the one who was able to walk through each one of the results and what the picture meant and what the numbers meant. And for the first time in my life, I finally had this big, deep breath moment, like a huge relief, like, oh my gosh, there's been something going on with my brain this whole time, but it can change. I can develop it. I can grow it to do something differently. And so got really excited, started doing neurofeedback sessions 7 days a week for over an hour. I also mixed in some work with heart-brain coherence and breathing techniques, along with paying attention to and tracking my heart rate variability. So all of these kind of buzzword performance metrics that we might think about in the brain health space, I started to pay attention to. I started to practice them, and little by little, progress started to happen. And the interesting thing was, I actually didn't notice the progress myself first. It was my dad who noticed it. One of the hallmark features of me as a human being growing up was that I could not maintain a conversation for more than 10 seconds without getting frustrated or tuned out, or get that nice classic ADHD 1,000-yard stare going. He and I talked on the phone for over an hour that night, and that was about 2 to 3 weeks into my neurofeedback training. At the end of the call, he said, "Son, do you realize we've been talking now for over an hour? This is fascinating. You've never been able to do this." And so then it started to click, and I dove into it even harder after that, because there was a result starting to happen. I was able to wean off the medication I was on for ADHD. And then I transferred to a new school to continue playing baseball. And I went from someone whose room was just a complete disaster, like clothes everywhere, my books and papers and everything all over the place, to my room was organized and put together and arranged almost like military style, like
Mhm.
tucked in, everything was in line, clothes were folded crisply, shirts were hung up and ironed. It was just like a completely different experience, but all the while internally, it just felt like me becoming more of myself
Mm.
and me becoming the person that I knew I was inside that I could never really just get out. And so that was kind of those years. And then because I
So
did so
let's
much.
stop there for a second. So people may not
Yeah,
know what neural feedback is.
sure.
If you could explain the mechanisms of what's actually going on when you're putting on the cap and acting with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've used several different modalities for neurofeedback now, but the one that I started with was a company called Thought Tech based out of Toronto. And um, essentially neurofeedback is a form of operant conditioning where your brain is teaching itself through a stimulus
Mhm.
to perform differently. So the setup that I had initially was I would have a desktop or like a laptop like this that had a pro comp, which is just an EEG device that's medical
Mhm.
grade that you'd see in a hospital, plugged in via USB cord to the laptop. And I would quite simply just sit and watch a movie. And as the movie was playing, I had one electrode connected up here on my brain and then two on my ears, serving as reference points for my brain to be um, communicating with in a closed loop. And anytime my brain would get outside of the parameters that we were training it to be in, the movie would skip, kind of like you're watching a bad DVD that had scratches on it from back in the day. And your brain, or I would visually see that skip, and my brain would then take that in and say, okay, we don't want that. We want to watch the movie as it is, not with skips. So we're going to adjust how we're operating and rewire a new pattern so that the movie can play. So over
Interesting.
time, yeah. And um, this specific technology also included a breathing belt, so I was able to pay attention to things like oxygenation and blood flow during my training as well, which is super critical for how your brain is performing. And anytime my breathing pattern would get too slow or too fast, or I just would not be mindful of my breathing pattern, the screen would shrink down to like the size of a penny. So now not only was the video skipping, but also I couldn't see it. And so my brain responds to that and is like, okay, yep, we got to do something different. And um, yeah, over time I saw the the clinical brainwave ratio, theta beta ratio that's associated with ADHD come into normal healthy levels over time. And I also saw the high beta ratio that's very closely associated with high levels of anxiety and chronic stress come
Mhm.
down as well into healthy levels. And I felt that on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, wow. Wow, yeah. I remember doing something like that. Wasn't watching a movie. I forgot what I was doing, but it was a neurofeedback. I have a speech impediment where I grew up stuttering and went through speech therapy. So she was wondering if the neurofeedback could help with that. This was a while ago, and so I haven't. That is all new technology. 'Cause this was, gosh, I was living in California, so this was at least, I don't know, 10 years ago or so.
Yeah, it's definitely developed, and there are lots of ways to approach neurofeedback. The key is just having that stimulus for your brain to respond to.
Yeah, yeah, fascinating, and, definitely, and so with, well, let's look at heart rate variability. Could you explain that and why people should, start to be aware of
Yeah,
that?
yeah, absolutely. I love HRV. Actually, I wear an Oura ring, and I woke up this
Mhm,
morning and my HRV was not great. Essentially, what HRV is, heart rate variability, is the time in between successive heartbeats. And we may think, just without having any kind of education on HRV, that our heart just beats continually through our life, kind of like a metronome, just one
mhm,
after the other in the same cadence all the time. But in reality, the heart actually has quite a bit of variance in the time between beats, which is a good thing. someone might think, oh no, my heart is an irregular heartbeat and I'm not well. But it's actually good to have that because it shows that your nervous system essentially is transitioning back and forth between a stress state and a rest state really well. So the way that I trained heart rate variability was specifically through breathwork exercises. On the in breath, as you breathe in, your heart rate speeds up because that sympathetic or the stress side of your nervous system is very active, speeding up your heart rate. And then as you transition to the out breath, your nervous system also then can transition to that rest or the parasympathetic state. And so as you are mindful of your breath, you're making a subconscious system, the autonomic nervous system, which is subconscious, more of a conscious process or a training opportunity to literally teach your body how to balance well between those two states.
And part of our work is making sure the human knows this earlier in life, so it becomes a part of their identity and the way they walk through it. And it's funny thing that breath, it's once you don't have it, you realize you need it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, you're not really paying attention to it when
Right.
it's just automatic. And so what's your, and I know you teach this, so I know where folks can go to learn more from you or to check out your coaching packages, but what's your like to go to breath technique, if you're just going to share one? Because I know there's several that people have, and does it vary depending on the situation, you know?
It does, absolutely. Your body and brain definitely have different demands based on the setting. So I wouldn't say to someone, like one of the very common breathwork patterns is box breathing, where you form a box with the amount of time that you're spending in each quadrant of the breath. So breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, breathing out for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds would be an example of that. Box breathing would not be beneficial if you are running, because your body needs a different level of oxygen to support your brain and support the movement, support blood flow. One of my favorite ones, though, that actually has great benefit with younger people as well is something that I just call parasympathetic tone breathing. That's a very ugly scientific name. But the focus is on that out breath. So you breathe in maybe a little bit quicker, maybe 4 to 5 seconds through the nose. And then it's a slow, very paced breath out through the mouth with pursed lips for maybe 8 to 10 seconds. And if you remember what I talked about, how on the in breath, that sympathetic or stress state becomes active. And then on the out breath, the parasympathetic or rest state is more active and dominant. We're through that breathing pattern, literally training your body to come out of stress state and into rest, which can be helpful for managing stress during the day. I do that kind of breathing in between meetings just to help me reset and regroup for the next thing that I have to do. It helps me task switch better as an ADHD person who really struggles with task switching. But one really cool area that I actually saw it from my sister's second grade class was she had 2 students who were just kind of your classic 8-year-old boys who very energetic, wanted to jump and run around during class while she's teaching, and were a bit disruptive. And that kind of a student can easily get labeled just as a problem for their entire educational experience. And instead of doing that, my sister took this breathwork approach with them through the summer with their families, and they went from being labeled as problem children in the class to then transitioning the next year into the gifted and talented program, because they had in them that ability the whole time. It just had to be unlocked. So that parasympathetic framed breathing pattern is one of my favorites.
Yes, it's just so important that we should be doing this as, in preschools. We should be, that's one of the first things I taught my son, and he was 2 or 3 years old. I'm like, you gotta handle your breathing and your vocabulary. 2 things. Those are frustrating when you can't express
Yeah.
yourself using words, right? Especially for the
Yes.
toddlers. And then, all about the amygdala and everything. And I can have you share what you know about that. But you mentioned between meetings, and I want to talk about that really quick. There's a lot of research coming out on the power of breaks, brain breaks,
Oof.
not back-to-back meetings and everything.
Mhm.
Can you expand upon why the workforce needs to be moving away from that as far as brain health goes?
Yeah, and the easiest way to kind of jump into this from a practical level is just to say that stress is cumulative. So the first moment your alarm goes off and you're like snapped out of a dream state into alert, I need to turn that off immediately. That pattern starts to begin. And so um, if you think of the nervous system with those two sides, kind of like a teeter-totter at a children's playground, they need to be flowing with each other all the time. And what can happen if you have that alarm go off, then you realize you're late and you got to rush, and so you quick get ready, brush your teeth, run out the door, get to work, and then you have meeting one after the other. Or maybe it's just stressful, busy work that you need to do, or focus work. Not having a break is like setting an elephant on one side and then a mouse on the other. And for one day, that's fine. But over a period of time, that starts to become chronically how your nervous system is adjusted. So when you're just sitting in the evening watching a movie with a loved one or family or a spouse, you're
Mhm.
still in that chronically stressed state. And
Mm.
that is where things like chronic disease and illness start to develop, because the body is just in a chronic state of fight or flight, running away from that tiger, which a long time ago was a very good thing to have. And if you're in traffic and someone cuts you off, we need that fight or flight response to be able to press the brake in time to
Mhm.
stop the car. But if you're just sitting in the evening watching a movie, you should not be neurologically or physiologically running away from danger.
Mm. Yeah.
So the value of breaks is to, in the same way that an athlete goes through a training cycle, we as non-athletes or corporate athletes or students need to think the same way in how we approach our physiological states, because it not only helps us to be healthier, but it also helps us show up better where we're needed. So
Mhm.
show up better
Mhm.
at work, show up better for our families when we're at home, and have that emotional regulation. Um, the way that I approach breaks is pretty unique because I just kind of know myself and my brain well, but I typically will allow myself to work for 45 minutes at a time in what I call a flow block. And
Mhm.
then for
Hold on.
15 minutes, I will either, if I have a meeting like what we're doing now, I will just go sit and close my eyes, maybe use a neurotech that I have here to just kind of calm myself down, because
Mhm.
having a conversation like this is very engaging and it's good and it's fun, but it takes a certain level of energy and focus and stress.
Mhm.
If that 45 minutes was spent doing focus work where I'm working on my computer, then my 15-minute break will be getting up, moving around, maybe going for a walk outside, maybe calling a friend, maybe doing the dishes. I work from home. So just finding some way to be active that's not at all involved with work. And that has worked really well for me, not just in my ability to perform well from a brain standpoint in those 45-minute slots, but also I noticed that my energy is sustained throughout the day, where I'm not chunking 2 to 3 hours of work at a time and then realizing at the end of that I'm feeling pretty weary and burned out, but that I'm intentionally being mindful of how I'm spending my time and how I'm including rest as I go through the day. And then as a result of that, at the end of the day, when it's time to go to sleep, my nervous system and my brain and my body are all ready for sleep, because I've reminded them with those 15-minute breaks throughout the day what it means to come out of stress and go into rest.
Yeah, that's good. I know the Center for Brain Health calls it, 5 of 5. Try to take five breaks throughout out the day.
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
5 minutes. I like 15 as
I do
well.
too.
And then, I was looking at some research, and he was talking about cognitive versus physical, activity. So he said, if you have a very physical job, like you're a construction worker, um, you know, he was talking about the importance of diversity and diverse activities on the brain to increase just mental stimulation and things like that. But it was the first time I heard him talk about the cognitive and the physical aspect. Because people like us, we're mental. We love our mental stuff, but we're also very physical with sports and movement and
Mhm.
everything. So we kind of have both worlds. But there's some people who don't. They're
Yeah,
all cognitive, and they feel their bodies are just to move their brains around, right?
yeah,
And
exactly.
then there's some people who just do physical stuff and they never do the mental stimulation. Can you talk about that? Like
Yeah.
how, especially in this going into this era of brain awareness and the new workflow with AI and everything, it's a new territory. How should we balance those?
That's a great question, and it is a great concern. As the world becomes more digital, we become less active and we also become less connected. And
Mm.
that
Mhm.
second one is what really has become a passion of mine, is finding ways to be more connected in a digital age with
Mhm.
all of this AI. I can give an example. I had a client who was a he was in software engineer, very heavy workload, like intensely heavy, demanded 15 hours a day of his time. His job was very intense, but it was all sitting, always at the computer. And
15 hours.
15 hours. Yeah, that was the average, sometimes more, sometimes a bit less. And he just expressed that obviously at the end of the day feels mentally wiped, completely fatigued, not
Mhm.
sleeping well because he's just in that chronic stress state. So, um, but then also the demand for his work doesn't allow him to take an hour to go away to go to the gym or,
Mhm.
take weird different breaks like maybe someone like myself who does that strange 45-15 routine could more freely do. So what we established through the process of working and talking with him was he did have to get up to do things like go to the bathroom, go get food, refill his water. And so every time he went through a door frame, he would do 10 squats. And he just really bought into that. That was something that he came up with because he knew and recognized that he was going through door frames, and that could kind of act as a trigger for him
Mhm.
to pay attention to his brain and be mindful of his body. And so that was one aspect of kind of taking the more sedentary work style and finding a way to approach brain health when there's a lot of demand. And then for
Wait,
people who,
pause there for a quick second. I want to
yeah,
remind folks the power of the leg muscle in the brain. I don't know if you've seen any research on that about it's especially telling so women, people getting older, like don't stop not working out, working out and even with squats and stuff. So that's fun. That's cool how he just added those squats in right there.
yes, yeah, strength training is so critical to brain health as we age. And so, if you can just get 2 times a weekend of some resistance training, that can have a profound impact on how your brain ages over time.
Especially the
Um,
legs too, the biggest muscle, right?
especially the legs. Yep. Get those big muscles moving. Yep. Absolutely. Um, so yeah, that went really well with him. And then, as far as being connected goes, there are a lot of people, including myself, who work from home. And so you're often just sitting alone for a very long time each day. And there can be this sense of disconnectedness that can really affect your brain's ability to perform well. Because one of the things that has been shown many times through things like blue zones or longevity studies or health span studies is the importance of community and having that social connection time.
Mhm.
So something that I'm even doing going into the new year to kind of combat that in a new way is I've reached out to several of my friends and who I also know work from home, and we're going to just set up little work sessions where one of us pops into each other's place here in San Francisco, and we don't necessarily need to talk. We just work and have another person in the area, and the amount of influence and impact that has just on your overall well-being mentally and emotionally, but also the brain's ability to perform is pretty dramatic.
Yeah, our brains affect one another, right? Like my brain is growing or making just with all your stories and everything. I'm like, oh wow, what that? And hey, there's that connection too. And I didn't even know you existed like a few days ago, and here we are.
That's how that works.
Now you have a special spot up here forever.
That's
If
right.
I'm ever in San Francisco, and if you're ever in Phoenix, please look me up. You have a place to. We'll work together.
Absolutely. Yes, do a work session.
Yes, yeah, but I love that because even if you don't talk all the time, it's not like a coffee meet up. Just being in the same space with someone and sharing that energy, just speaks to you. And I love the term flow block.
Yeah.
That's cool. And so with that, so let's talk about Brainnovation. Love the word because I'm the one who makes up words all the time. I trademark intercultural creativity, neurosomatic creativity, brainalicious. So I just love that's just
Yes.
how my brain works. But I do talk about going to the government and trademarking your stuff. But what is Brainnovation and how did it get started? And what is your connection with that?
Yeah, great question. So there's three of us that are co-founders, but really the original founder is a lady named Tanya Yardley, who's based in Vancouver Island, British Columbia, has had 35 plus years in the neurophysiology space. So started out as a physiotherapist working specifically with neuro and rehab and concussion, and then kind of worked through the process of developing clinics and being kind of more involved in a executive framework.
Mhm.
In her most recent position, she was the VP of innovation at a health tech company up there in Vancouver, and had the opportunity to just kind of like scour the globe and see all of the different emerging technologies and thought leaders that were coming about in the neuroscience space.
Mhm.
And from that, realized many brilliant people or brilliant technologies are trapped in the silos of research or going through the process of white papers, or even like this neuropsychologist I worked with 10 years ago. I met him because of a family friend. I would have never known he existed. And the trajectory of my life would have been completely different had I not met him. So
Mhm.
there are so many brilliant people worldwide who are doing incredible work in the neuro space that just are not connected, or maybe they don't have the business training, or they don't have this or that. So the whole idea with Brainnovation Network then is to really create a network of like-minded, innovative people who are forward thinking in the brain health space and pair them together to really create access to better brain health solutions for people. So instead of not knowing that something exists, now you can see on a global map where you can not just find a physical therapist, but you can find a physical therapist who specializes in neuro rehab, nervous system. They have access to these 4 tech devices that you could use for these different lists of symptoms you're experiencing, and they're in your neighborhood. So that's kind of the idea of the network. How we do that, how we create access is really, number one, primarily through our digital platform. It's called the Brainnovation Hub. The way I like to call it is like a LinkedIn / Instagram / Facebook for
Mhm.
everything brain health. So it's curated information. It's coming down from our advisory team. So it's trustworthy in an age where there's a lot of not good brain health information on the internet. So people can join at a health seeker level for basically cheaper than a Netflix membership per month. We have a second level specifically for clinicians who are operating in some kind of clinical space that want to be connected to neuro, where in that space, they can communicate with other clinicians, share wins, share ideas, share resources. So it's a nice connecting hub for them. And then at the top level, we have our clinic owner kind of mastermind, where clinic owners can come together to learn how to put together and structure brain health programs to support communities that they're in. So that's the core, is the platform. And then from that, we have our marketplace that offers things like brain health technologies, supplements, courses. So a lot of my role is doing the training, so educating on brain health, putting together courses, working with experts to develop courses for them that we can then promote through our marketplace. And then the last one is something that we're very excited about. It's a concept called the Neuro Lounge, which is basically a tech suite for brain health technologies that are paired together in a custom way to fit the population that they're serving. So one example is our team has a trip to New York here in the next couple of weeks to visit some senior care homes. And so we've put together a custom built tech suite with nervous system, balance, vestibular system products that support that population in terms of aging well with brain health support. So that's kind of the big picture, definitely going in a lot of directions, but it's a really fun, massive project. And I got connected with it. Just kind of that's a very long story, but met Tanya last year about this time, and just kind of was able to share my story of brain health, and was able to get connected into the project. And it's really one cool thing that I'll just say really quick about the brain health space, and maybe you've seen this as well, is that many people are in the brain health space because of personal experience, whether they've had a concussion or a TBI and they've had to work through that, or they've had ADHD like me and have had to find ways to just get through every day and be productive, or trauma or whatever it might be has brought them to developing this deep passion and love for brain health and for supporting others in the same way. So that's just been really cool. The three of us founders all kind of have our own unique brain health story. We call it a Brainnovation story. The name Brainnovation is simply brain health plus innovation paired together. So just trying to find new and creative and fun ways to create access to brain health through innovation.
Yeah, I mean that of course our brains normally paired that together. So yeah, I just love wonderful names. So I hope she trademark mark that. But that's wonderful, because there are a lot of misinformation, disinformation, good information, intriguing information. Then there's people like me, where I don't have a neuroscience degree, but I do have many books from people who do. But my gift, I don't want to go back to get a neuroscience degree. That's not my calling. My calling is to teach, right? How can I take this thick information, kind of like what you're doing with your courses? How can I take all that 8-point font from the articles in these journals that no one else is reading but them? Sometimes I think they're talking to one another. So I'm like, hey, what about us right here? What about Susie at Walmart and Jimmy at Jiffy Lube? What about them, right?
Yeah. How do I apply this complex concept for Susie on a Tuesday when she's got to have 3 kids who are homesick from school? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We have a thing called brain bites. And so, yeah, so we have Brain Alicia's Adventures, and I think that's how we got connected, because you were seeing some of the things that I was sharing, and yeah, it's almost like we can't be exclusive with this information anymore. Time is of the essence. Sadly, we have people who are suicidal because they don't know the power that's in their head, and they have no tools, no strategies. I'm a K-12 educator. I will tell you first on, we do not teach this in school at all. It's no part of the curriculum. You do need to know what your Pythagorean theorem formulas are and how to judge the sound of a train that's passing you, but you have no clue on how to regulate your emotions and heart rate variability, and at least for breathing. It's just like, once again, kind of like with the salary, it's like we're backwards, people.
Yeah. I don't know that I've used Pythagorean theorem since I learned it in like 5th grade, but that's okay.
Yes, but imagine if you had your breathing techniques down in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade.
It would have been life-changing.
Or imagine, because one thing that I want to teach is because that story with that coach is just hitting me so hard because because that is a form of child abuse in my mind. Um,
Agreed.
and the fact that children don't have the tools. A lot of adults don't even have it, but children definitely don't have it. Where to say, because if that happened to me and he was talking to me like that, as a woman now, I'd be like, okay, this is something that this has nothing to do about me. You're going through some stuff, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I can totally compartmentalize that. Like he,
yeah.
if someone calls me a name on the street, I'm like, you don't know me, so I know this is not personal, right? So I just keep on walking. But a child doesn't really have those parameters set up yet, if at
Right,
all, right?
right.
And so, yeah, with your work, like what other advice do you have for people who may not have any of this training besides going to your wonderful network and signing up? But what what else can they do as they learn more about what your organization does?
Yeah, I think what came up for me as you were sharing that was the idea that specifically to my circumstance with ADHD, it's really that idea of having a voice and having an ability to understand what's going on in your brain and how to convey that in words, whether it's with a difficult person like my coach and saying like, hey, what's going on, man? Like I threw one ball. It's a 1-0 count. It's not the end of the world. Um, I didn't have those resources, and many people, like you said, don't. And so I think that the first thing that is just so critical, and the first thing that I work with in my coaching sessions is just having a mindfulness, like just becoming aware. And
Mhm.
I call it meet your brain, like meet your brain for the first time and understand that, it's you have these things showing up like symptoms of brain fog at 2 p.m. And we've just decided as a society to accept that
Mm,
like, oh
yeah.
yeah, or like memory issues as you age. We've just accepted that, oh, I'm just getting old. Like I'm going to forget stuff.
Mhm.
And I think that, by developing an awareness of your own brain, you're able to then spark that voice more and then share that out with your community. We have a program at Brainnovation Network that called the Brainnovation Ambassador Program. It's a course followed by some ongoing connections and support that basically just helps people meet their brain. It's the basics of mindset. It's the basics of how to support someone else in like a coaching environment or encouragement environment, guidance, followed by 6 very basic brain health habits like sleep and
Mhm.
hydration and movement. And I remember seeing somewhere your pillars, and I just related so closely with that. But that's the biggest thing I'd say. Start with just becoming aware.
Yeah, yeah. I sat down with Dr. Lee Frame, as you say, Frame. She spoke at the neuropsychologist conference that I had a table at, and I was just sharing the cute little plushy brains and stuff because they work a lot with children sometimes. And she spoke about a word that I've heard before, but in a different way, in interoception.
Mm.
Interoception, and the way she was using it, because she was talking about the microbiome, and I would love for you to talk about that if you know anything about it. Um, just yeah, being aware of what's going on inside of you. It's like we're so externally focused, and sometimes we're so externally focused. Like I know people who know more about the Kardashians' lifestyle than their own. We
Yeah,
study all these people, and then I'm a
that's
huge
too bad.
Abraham Lincoln person, as you can see up there, and I'm looking to do a brain health curriculum through the life of Lincoln. That's going to be fun and
Wow.
challenging, but it's like there are so many historians that all they know is Lincoln. I was like, how long do you spend more time on Lincoln than you do on yourself? That's the scary part, right?
Probably.
So yeah, but yeah, in introception is so important. The first lesson we have in our curriculum that we have a brain capital camp for kids
Mhm.
is meet your brain. Like, these are the parts. This is what they do. This is your amygdala, right? Once again, something that we can totally integrate into the K-12 curriculum that we just don't have. So another term that came up to me is this morning, actually. So you're the first one to hear it. I should trademark it as well. But
Wonderful.
great leaders are great eaters. Do you do
Ooh.
anything with food? And I can let you borrow it. We can talk later offline about a possible connection. But yeah, what do you at all in your program talk about that? Because we're finding out how it's so like a good 80% of the thing is what we put in us and on us and through us and
Yeah.
around us.
Yeah, absolutely. Food is medicine, not pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm coming off of visiting my family for Christmas and did not practice at all what I preach. So just full transparency there. Food is so important. And I think part of becoming aware is realizing what you put in your body and how that influences your brain state. So something like brain fog didn't just happen, like something either went in or is going on in there to cause that symptom to happen. So for me, I know I've done a lot of testing, personalized testing. I worked as a functional medicine health coach for several years for a medical institute. And so I was kind of the guinea pig of that company, going through all the labs. The value of testing is the value of knowing crystal clear what you need specifically, not what your friend on the treadmill next to you did and worked for them, or the person on Facebook says did and worked for them. You first need to know like what is going on in my own microbiome, what's going on in my body, in my blood, what's going on in my brain, what does my genetics say, and how can I take a hyper-personalized approach to my own health that is not based on something I heard on the internet, but it's based on what I know now about myself. And so, first of all, educating yourself and becoming aware. For me, I know that I don't have celiacs, but I am highly intolerant of gluten. I also know that my brain does not put together that specific chain that is in the end result produces dopamine and serotonin, which are like those feel-good hormones. My brain does not produce those. So like, I just need to be aware of that and recognize that if I make the choice to eat something like I'm in San Francisco, we love sourdough bread here. If I have a sourdough, I just know that I'm probably going to experience brain fog. I'm going to be lethargic. I'm going to be bloated. And so I have the ability now to make that choice instead of being surprised at the end result and not knowing what caused it. So I think first is awareness. Also, the brain does not love inflammatory things. So inflammatory foods are things like gluten, sugar, and highly processed foods that you'd find in a box. And so I'm never going to be the person who says just completely stop, because I do believe that there is a certain aspect of the world of longevity and the world of health span that has become so obsessed with the idea of like living forever that they forget to actually live. And the joys of having an ice cream with your family on your birthday or something like that are beautiful moments. It's just be aware of what that's going to do and how you can combat that. The gut and the brain are deeply, deeply connected. The gut sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the gut. So what we're putting into the gut is critically important for what we should be expecting out of our brain. And I say expecting because we kind of treat the brain like this mythical object that just kind of is there, but we don't really pay attention to. We pay close attention to our hearts. We pay close attention to our liver, our lungs, all these organs that are obviously crucially important. But I might argue that the brain is potentially the most important organ that we have because of all of the control it has over our daily life.
Conductor.
It's literally the conductor. And we pay the least amount of attention to it, and we just expect that we're going to be focused, and we just expect that we're going to have good mental performance, and that we're not going to have anxiety or depression, and we just expect we're going to sleep at night. In the same way that you would not expect to, at work, go into a sales pitch and perform the sales pitch perfectly without practice, you should not expect your brain to want to go to sleep at night if you haven't taught it how to do that.
Oh, so
a lot of that comes with, a lot of that comes with how and when we eat.
Yes, yes. So I feel that's part of my my calling now in life is to bring that more up to the forefront. Because as my focus on creativity, and then I'm like, oh wait, culture influences that, and I'm like, oh wait, brain health influences your creative thinking. So that's where I'm coming from, is like, how can people be their most creatively productive? Not necessarily artistry, but just creative thinking. And just the research going through it, I'm like, wow, this food thing is coming up a lot.
Yeah, maybe I should pay attention to this.
Yeah, and going back to what you're saying, and I tell people, and I have a 7-year-old. I'm just like, because I'm the shopper of the home, and the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. That quote from that film, the hand that rocks the cradle, right? But as the shopper, of a family unit or an organization, I'm bringing in the success or failure of my family members. If I'm bringing in hot Cheetos, like it's no tomorrow. We went to a birthday party and it was just like a box of hot Cheetos, hot fire, like 4 things I was just like, this is not cool.
Those are delicious,
now that
but it's not cool.
now that I know, 5 years ago, I'd be like, okay, you can have one. But he's like, and then now we have to plan ahead. So, and it's, and we have to communicate this to people. You're not going to be 100%, on key. And like you said, holidays come up, but the first step is just being aware now that everything you do has an impact. For me, that was just the first step. I didn't change behavior right away, but I'm like, okay, if I'm going to eat this bag of, whatever, there's a consequence to it. And that awareness is the first step. Now we do more, we bring in more stuff I never grew up eating. We didn't grow up eating avocados. I love avocados now. Lentils. There's a lot of food that we just didn't have. And culturally, it's just shifts too, right? You have to be mindful of culture as well. Wonderful. Right. So, wow. Thank you so much. I can talk to you even more, but I know we are past time. If people wanted to find you or find more out about Brainnovation or the work that you all are doing, where could they go?
The best way to do that now is just our website. It's brainnovationnetwork.com, and all of the resources, the marketplace, the hub are all available right there, brainnovationnetwork.com. That would probably be the simplest way now.
Yes. And you're on LinkedIn. If people wanted to reach out to you, they can find you there at Collin Adams, a wonderful, smiling, wonderful young man.
One of many Collin Adams on LinkedIn, I learned. So I guess my name's not very unique.
Well, I was thought about that with my name. Like, I'm glad my mother spelled my name the way she did, because there's not too many people with my name. But wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your work. Thank you, audience, for listening. We always love to bring you just different facets, right? This is a huge, beautiful diamond. And the last thing is, if you're going to leave us with a gem of wisdom, what would that be?
Absolutely. I think from the entire conversation, the one thing that I can point to is that your brain, whether it's a symptom of brain fog or you're not sleeping or you're feeling overly stressed, your brain is just telling you that it wants to be understood. And the best way that you can start to do that is to just become aware and mindful. Take yourself out of the on screen, surrounded by your emotions and circumstances, and put yourself back in the audience and be able to choose which ones to respond to and which ones are most important.
Yes. To have that perspective shifting ability is certainly a skill that we all should be working on. So wonderful. Thank you so much. And for everyone else, continue someone sent a note. Yay, we have they're like sharing the website now. Sharing the website again. Please go check them out at brainnovationnetwork.com, and you can screenshot that, check out Collin Adams and his wonderful team, and continue having a Brainnovation new year, right? Happy New Year 2026.
Happy New Year.
Here we come with powerful, beautiful, healthy, creative brains. Thanks so much, and see you next time.